Hello everybody, welcome to episode 31 of the single player Let's Play. It has been a very busy in-between episodes, so I've been playing a lot, doing a lot of stuff on here, just kind of sitting AFK letting some stuff happen, but also actually working at changing some stuff around so that this episode would not be just a whole bunch of random oddities all over the place. So let me quickly go over everything that I've done real quick if I can. First thing, I made a Staff of Traveling, as you can see. These are really cool from Ender.io. You can shift right-click to phase through blocks, or right-click to teleport straight to a travel anchor. That's the next thing I did, is I changed these around. So I put the Creeper travel anchor down here. I felt it was fitting with the mob farm. And so now there's this one, and then there's still the Midway one here. And it's using, I don't even remember which block this is, Stoneburn from Extra Utilities. These generators are now kind of somewhat upgraded. So check this out. I built this little room for it, and if you remember previously I had this set up where the conduits were going from the tree farm all the way over here, and then they had the crafter in between exporting on round robin. Well, that was kind of a whole bunch of nonsense, so I changed it around, and instead what I'm doing is I'm using phantom faces, 10 of them. This was not that bad to craft actually. And I'm importing the wood straight into my system now, and I'm exporting the wood out of my system and into this crafter. And this crafter is exporting on the opposite side over here in round robin mode. And so yeah, it's going in round robin into all of these instead. Slightly different. Now, returning to the subject of down here, I have upgraded the power system a little bit, so we're not going to do the massive overhaul yet. That's what we're doing this episode, so you didn't miss anything, don't worry, I'm not mean. But what I did do was I added 3 more combustion generators. I didn't show that on camera, it was exactly the same as these. Basically, I just needed more power. And I think currently our resources are able to handle it. I haven't actually thought to check, but we seem to be doing... Yeah, we're maxed out on apples and sugar canes, so I would not be worried about it. Let me take a nap real quick and I will show you the rest of what I've done. Because I was running into an issue where surprisingly with just a handful more exporters with crafting upgrades in them, and I was overloading my original power production. Now we're doing a little bit better at about 208 input RF per tick, because we're actually using a astonishing amount of energy on our controller now, or on our network. I mean, look at this, we're using 132 RF per tick just on the network, So yeah, and let me see. Oh, I made new baubles. I crafted my normal band of mana and my normal band of aura into the greater variant using some extra terra steel that I've been getting from the mana farm up here, which you can see is going well. I've actually had several very full mana pools so far. I also hooked this up here with a phantom face. I'm not sure if I showed that on camera or not, but there's a pipe underneath this going to a phantom face, which you can kind of see it there. And the phantom face is hooked up to this hopper. So this is now our coal supply, like input, basically. And lastly, right after I get rid of these creepers, there we go, made a new farming area. What do you guys think? So this is in preparation for today's episode. We're going to do some farming of red orchids. Now, red orchids, a few of them are already grown here. When you right-click on them or left-click, you can break them if you want to. To harvest them, you get redstone. Now, the item you hold does make a difference. You'll only get 1 piece of redstone if you're not holding anything with fortune on it. And I believe this also applies just for, like, the fortune enchant. So the fortune augment doesn't cut it. But here's what does. Let me show you real quick. If I warp on over here and grab my old Tinker's Pick, which had Fortune 3 on it, and it's the normal kind of fortune. Like, the reason this doesn't count is basically it doesn't actually have the enchantment applied. If I grab this one, you notice we have 10, and that time we got 13. 4, 2, I mean, you notice you get a lot more with fortune. But if we're going to automatically farm this, it doesn't actually really make a difference to me either way. So I'm probably not going to do anything about that. I will probably just leave that as is as far as the setup goes, because at this point what I want to do is set up the farming station for all of this. So I dug all this out last night, and it's now the next morning, and you can see just trying to do some decent intricate design. Like, I don't want to go too overcomplicated. I'm going to leave the conjured blocks for lighting here because I needed lighting in the middle of the room, and it's really not possible any other way that looks good with the fact that I can't replace the floor. Well, I can replace the outer border, but I'm going to replace that with a different block for now, and then we're going to come back to it because we may need to expand this farm, depending on our needs. But I've got tons and tons and tons of chiseled bits. I'm currently helping algorithms sort out a rendering bug with these. I'm having to use the dynamic renderer right now in chisels and bits, I believe. Here, let me show you real quick. If I go to client performance settings, I'm using the dynamic renderer instead of the static renderer. So it's not a huge deal. One of them is the static renderer is a little more performance idealized, but I'm not really concerned. But if you look very closely, there's actually tons of chiseled bits along this ceiling to make it feel a little bit more randomized and in-depth, but they're all just chiseled leaf bits. I really, really love how this feels, actually. Like, I wanted it to not feel like a flat ceiling, and it doesn't somehow, to me at least. Because you see, like, these little bits hanging down. I might choose a little bit more depth, like have a few that dangle down 5 or 6 bits deep, or like down into the room, but we'll come to that later. Back to the red orchids, though. This is how we're going to farm for redstone, because at this point, what we're going to need to do, or what we want to do, the goal, is to go through, I forgot to refill that, is to go through and farm these using an Ender IO farming station, which means we're going to need to craft our hose again, which is kind of a problem because our other crafting of hose is up here. So I'm not sure if my options are, what my best options are. What I think I may do, because I left quite a few blocks worth of space in between, is I'm probably going to take this setup here with the energy conduits and move it down. So let's go ahead and do that. I have a plan. I haven't actually made one of these on this Let's Play yet, but if I look at the recipe for prismarine, we're going to need it here. Because I want to make 2 power cells, and each power cell is going to require some prismarine. So let's grab some quartz. I'm just going to grab about 16 because you'll find yourself using this relatively often. And this is one of my favorite atomic reconstructor recipes that exists. It takes up quite a lot of RF to do this, so you can't do like a whole crap ton at once. And in fact, I think I may have only gotten like 10. Yeah. I'm still waiting for a few more there. And at this point, it doesn't even have enough RF anymore. So we'll just wait to do the rest later. I've got what I need. And you don't even have to make the advanced or these power cells. There's actually an even simpler power cell. If I show you here. There's the simple power cell, which is just nether quartz. But the normal power cell actually provides you with a little bit more RF. So, and for the sake of, you know, just having a couple of diamonds, it's worth doing if you ask me. So we'll go ahead and grab this. We're going to need 2 capacitors, which we can handle. And then we're going to need that. So the reason a power cell is useful is because they are a relatively reasonable means of wirelessly transmitting power. So we're going to need 2 of these power cell link cards. And in order to craft those, you're just going to need some paper and some redstone. And they're pretty straightforward as to how they work. So let's pick these guys back up. Whoops. And you. Did not mean to break you. And like I said, wireless RF basically is how this boils down. For now, because I don't really have any other plans for this area, and we already have conduits here, why don't we just choose to put this right here? And you're going to notice it's not taking in any power. That's because you have to go into in mode, which lets all sides be inputs for energy. You can otherwise also choose to just use your wrench, which I do not actually have crafted. There's a wrench specific to RF tools called a smart wrench. You can use one of these to set each side individually as input or output. So these work exactly the same as a capacitor bank or the old what am I thinking of? Energy cells from thermal expansion. But that's kind of beside the point. So now what we can do is we can link using this slot. And then when I remove this, I thought it was as simple as that, but maybe it's not. Yeah, there we go. So we get link ID 1. Sorry, I had mixed that up. So you put a slot in here, and it's going to give you a link ID. The link IDs are generated progressively, so you're going to start at 1, and as you go on, you'll get 2, 3, 4, 5. You can't choose a specific one. What you can do is if you already have one that's linked to ID 1, you can use the link slot here to make another one that is ID 1. Now, what do you suppose this does? Well, your guess is probably the exact answer if you just put the power cell card in the same slot. What's this? Where's this energy coming from? Why do I have twice as much? Each one of these acts like its own storage cell. This is how you can make a multi-block power cell if you would like, is to have multiple of these. And essentially the way this is going to work is each one of these stores 1,000,000 RF. I've got 2 of them, so now ID 1 stores 2,000,000 RF. Simple enough. So at this point, we have our power situation handled. We're going to need to figure out the new crafting situation, but that's okay. We have item conduits, so we can pretty much go ahead and handle this. In fact, let me go ahead and grab some energy conduits too. And we're just going to do something like the preemptive crafting, because at this point, there's still plenty left to figure out. One other thing is, when we do this farm, we're going to get a massive excess of red orchids. So I'm going to get yet another exporter. I think I already even have one. Yep, perfect. And another cable, and set up an extract or an output to export red orchid seeds, because once we've got the farm done, we're not going to need any more, and I've already got quite a ton of them, as you can see. So this is going to kind of save us some time. I spent about 20 minutes with bone meal trying to get this set up. So let me see if we're coming over here. I intend to set up a way to get down here at some point, but I don't really know how. So if you guys have any suggestions, feel free to let me know. I have no ideas as to what I should do. The best I can come up with... And very interesting, by the way, our cactus is still here. The only thing I can really think to come up with is if I I don't know. Because I made the inside... This is the wall. This follows the same line as the wall of the room, so I can't do anything on these corners. The best I can come up with is if I maybe build like a little shack house or something that tunnels over into it. I'm not really sure. Oh, there's a butterfly here. I'm really not crazy for the butterflies, but I'm not going to be upset about them either. So if I... No, that's not where I wanted to go. Come on, friend. I might just have to dig down to it. Nope, there we go. So this is our Enderlink chest, which is importing items and goods from here. That's fine. This energy line here is coming from, of course, the farms. So we should probably do the same thing. I don't know why I put this other cell up here when we should probably put it over here. Now you'll notice that all the Ender IO stuff says infused or not infused. And what that means is generally you can use dimensional shards and a handful of RF, and by handful I usually mean several thousand, to go ahead and upgrade yourself to a nicer, higher tier capacitor. And what the higher tiers do for you is allow for energy efficiency. So if I upgraded this to a higher infusion, then that means that the power loss from larger distances would be less substantial, which is pretty great. As for this guy here, our little crafter, we're just going to have to put up with moving him. So we are extracting on black and inserting on green. I can handle that. If I just pick this guy up, it's not going to be a problem. I think I have 2 extra buckets. I do indeed. So we'll grab these and our transfer node for stone. We'll go ahead and leave this chest here. I honestly don't see any need to move it, because, quite frankly, it's just fine. So like I said, I left quite a few blocks between spaces here, so we actually have some wiggle room. So what I think we should do is if I come down here, we can set up the auto crafting literally right here behind this wall. Not going to be very complicated at all. I want to set it up kind of low because I only brought a few conduits with me, and I do not want the lava to catch anything on fire because most of this room is flammable. So we'll go ahead and put that down with our world interaction upgrade, or rather mining upgrade, and clean that up. So now we're going to have our power cell, which is going to be, oh crap, that's not what I wanted to do at all. We're going to route this down, so we're going to have power coming, power and actually, not just power, but the item conduit coming down over here and through here. And there we go, we're back to the cobblegen again. So that works out pretty well anyways. So, if we grab this guy, what we can do is we can put down our crafter. And let me get us some light in here. Let me just put a light right there. Maybe another one right here. Bear in mind, we don't even have our crafting state or our farming station yet, but this is all just kind of like the theoretical planning because it's good to plan. So we're gonna have item conduits basically all along this. So this will be power and our items. And remember, the power is coming from right upstairs from the passive power system that we have from, whoops, the passive power system that we're making from our water mills and our thermoelectric generators now. So this guy should be receiving power. We're going to tell you to, well, we're going to have to extract on two sides actually, is kind of the thing. So if we come up here, I think this is high enough. I think if we start digging, yeah, see, if we start digging this way, we should, there we go. This is what I was hoping for. Excellent. So now we can run our item conduits all this way. Right now we're probably getting an error saying no axe. Oh, no hoe, surprisingly. And this was set to insert on black, so we need to come down here and set this guy to extract on black. See why I made the staff of traveling? Pretty convenient when it works exactly how you want it, which is, you know, a lot to ask for sometimes. So we should, as soon as I hook this up, in theory, did that place? No. Well, we can go up here, disable, and hook that up here. We should have new tools, and we do. So that's perfect. So at this point, let me just kind of clean this up a little bit. Kind of hard to clean this area up because it is pretty tight. What I can do is I can move this. This probably could have gone here and would look just as good. And now, if we warp down here, we'll do the same thing. We'll tell you to... actually, I should tell you... Come on. I should be telling you to in-out. We'll insert on green priority 3. So we're running low on oak wood. I'm going to wait here for just a second to make sure that we do actually get some more oak wood from the farm. So that's basically my number one. Oh, there we go. We just got it. So I'm not even worried about it. Good. So now that that's done, at this point we have pretty much everything we need because this is getting everything it needs to produce infinite hose. So we're just going to tell this conduit connector to extract. I guess we'll do black always active. And then, when I'm done making the farming station, we will tell it to insert always active here. And in fact, we can probably go ahead and do that if I go ahead and grab my Yeta wrench. Maybe. Nope, it does not let me hook it up yet. That's fine. What I will do is make another tunnel over into this area because we're going to need to access underneath here at least one more time, and I can't really do that from this other side, especially since I'm about to shut all this stuff in. Because I think we're in good shape for that. So, you guys have seen me craft the farming station probably countless times at this point, so let me go ahead and craft another farming station and get the correct size capacitor. For that area, I believe it's a double layer to get... no, this would be equivalent to an octatic, I believe, so we'll go ahead and get another one just to make sure everything looks good, and yeah, so I'll be back in just a few minutes once I'm done with all the tedium that is the crafting. Alright, Enderlink chests to come with us. So at this point we've got the farming station, the Enderlink chest, we've got conduits with us already. So why don't we go ahead and finish this build up, and then we can get on to the rest of the episode. So we'll plop down our farming station. You will be receiving no hoe. So let me set that to, we'll do the same thing here. We're going to in out, so we're going to insert on, good question, what am I inserting on? Did I tell you to extract on black? Okay, I couldn't remember if I told this one to extract on black too, or if it was just the other one. So we will tell this guy to insert on black and extract, whoops, all mode. Insert on black and extract on, we'll make this one red, always active, because we're going to want to extract our redstone. So we will tell you to insert red, and so what we should see is quite a lot of redstone coming into our system. Now you notice there's this very obvious ring around the outside where it is not harvested. That's fine. And we're going to tell this guy to lock to red orchid. Now, if I give you a capacitor, now you're going to start harvesting that? Yes, looks like that's the case. Eventually, you should get the other ones. I just want to sit here and make sure. Yep, there we go. Now it's going down line by line, checking all of them, and boom, we have an automatic redstone farm. That's pretty fantastic, I'd have to say. So we will go ahead then. Since this is done, we have our redstone. I wanted to build with limestone. I've never built with limestone before. I get it all the time, and I never build with it, and it looks a lot like sandstone, so I want to give it a chance. Because I feel like this room, this little border along the outside, could really benefit from something like sandstone. So why don't we take a look at our texture options and see what we might decide. I'm kind of really liking the zag pattern, so why don't we try that for a few of these and see how we like it on a larger scale. So let's go and put you in place line mode. See, I think this looks pretty good. The randomized textures are pretty great. I'm quite a big fan of them. Now the only thing that I might do is I might change this up a little bit, so why don't I do this by hand? Because I'm thinking I don't know if you guys are just as bad about building with limestone as I am or not. I mean, I know that it's kind of an odd color, but if you think back to the vanilla building style back, you know, before people would install mods a lot, sandstone and wood were like a really common thing to do, so maybe this will work. I'm thinking if I take this out, and if I pop over here and grab some dark oak, I think that looks pretty good. In fact, I might do another... Whoops. Might go ahead and do another little area of this. And I actually have... Perfect. Yeah, see, I think this looks pretty okay. So the plan is, eventually we're probably going to need to expand this farm anyways, so I don't have enough redstone for that right now, because these have to be planted on redstone ore. I don't know if you noticed that. So I had to harvest all this redstone ore, and it was not a bad thing, but it just definitely wasn't something that was like, oh, you know what, I'm already going to get that much anyway, so big deal. It's kind of a pain in the butt. So yeah, let me go ahead and get everything ready for the next little bit, because we're going to need, I'll go ahead and tell you now, that way you know what I'm doing. We're going to need a few more things at this point. We're going to need 3 more vats. We're going to need to change up the entire infrastructure of our current system with the way that we have our fluids moved around downstairs. So we're going to need to re-implement that, and we're also going to need some more exporters. So let me get that handled, and I'll be back in just a bit. Alright, so I think we should be ready. I have my entire inventory kind of put together at this point. So let me go into these filters on all of these and turn off the filter for hooch. We want to start draining these as much as we can, because we're not going to want to use our hooch in here anymore. Believe it or not, we're going to start using something completely different. And so that's what this half of the room is going to be for. I made these rooms big on purpose. I like having plenty of space when working with these machines, just because they're just, I don't know. I like having the room for the conduits. It kind of drives me nuts whenever I've got everything all in one space. So, here is how this is going to work. We are going to have, and I'll go ahead and just rip up most of the floor for this, just on a simple count of the fact that it's going to be a lot of work, a lot of space that we're going to need to use. So we're going to need some energy conduits for our new vats. That's no surprise, hopefully. Whoops. I'm placing these conduits all wrong. So we're going to need conduits for those. We're going to need fluid conduits, but we're also going to need a few other things. And the biggest one of these things that I'm foreseeing as a challenge, potentially, is an RS connection. What I may do, here's a plan. We've got this area already configured anyways, so why don't we kind of clean this up a little bit? This is looking a little bit chaotic. Why don't we do something like just wall this in a little bit, and then we'll keep access that way. You never know. But then why don't we expand this a little bit on both sides so that we can walk around it on either side? Because I don't imagine I'll need to be down here ever again, but you never know. So we'll leave, we'll actually need to leave 3 blocks on each side, because I want to have 2 blocks on each side, but there's the idea of the fact that we're going to have 2 more buffers now. I gotta be honest, I don't really care about cleaning up this area too much. Like, I'm not gonna go through and replace the walls or the floor or any of that nonsense. There's just not really any sense in it, because I'm never gonna be down here, but if I do need to do any maintenance or work down here, I would like to be able to come down here and just be able to see what's going on and kind of grasp the concept of, okay, this isn't working, and that's why. So we have our 2 more item buffers. I'm not really sure why I like these. I could just be using a chest just as easily. It doesn't actually make a difference either way. But I've been using these for some reason. I forgot to bring another exporter. I only brought 1 exporter with me. and I needed 2. Fortunately, I have a lot of extras. So we're going to hook up an exporter here, which is going to export redstone, which we're farming. And we'll have another one here, which is going to export gunpowder, which we're also farming. See why I did all this stuff? Is it starting to make a little bit of sense now? Hopefully. Yes, I understand I have a redundant buffer here. I don't care at this point. What's done is done. So, from here, just to make sure that I don't get into any of this weird spaghetti that I've got going on up here that seems to be working flawlessly, so I don't want to mess it up, I'm going to pipe these out of the front, and we will just go ahead and do this. Perfect. And we will extract these on, let's do white, always active. I'm not using white for anything, I don't believe. So we'll do white, and we'll send an item conduit over here to our vats. Now we're also going to need an ender fluid conduit because we're going to be needing the hooch from the vats to be used for our new vats. So we're going to go ahead and before I've got a plan to avoid having an extra hooch cell that I don't want. The only fluid we need to import for come on friend, work with me. The only fluid we need to import, fortunately, is oops. Actually, yeah, we can go ahead and configure this completely because that's not going to be too terribly difficult. So we're going to insert this on white. We're going to in out. We want to auto extract, but we will actually we don't have to set a whitelist on that. That's fine. We'll auto extract, and then our insert is going to be filtered for hooch. This should work just fine. Change you to copy mode, and I'll fill you up with some hooch because I've actually already got some. I'm not sure why you're receiving rotten flesh. Was I extracting these on white too? Dang it, I was. I didn't realize that I was. I thought I was extracting those on a different color. Well, we'll extract these on black. Take that. My fault. Gunpowder and redstone? Gunpowder and redstone. There we go. That's better. That was completely incidental. Did not know that I was doing that. So, we should now be able to deposit hooch. This is going to process. So it took our hooch and it's going to use redstone and gunpowder to make everything we want. So at some point when this is done burning up, we should see rocket fuel, hopefully. Yep, an entire bucket of rocket fuel. We'll grab this come over here and tell you to insert rocket fuel now. And so if I copy the conduit settings again, all of these should now be inserting whitelist rocket fuel. Yep, good. So we're done over here with this stuff. We can cover all of this back up again. All of these should be configured properly. They're importing the right item. They should be extracting always active. Did I tell you always active? Extract, always active, filter. I guess we should filter this, shouldn't we? Yep, we needed to filter that. No big deal. Copy, paste, paste. And now, ender fluid conduit across to here. And all of these vats probably just emptied. And these vats are running to make us more rocket fuel. Now, at this point, I think we're actually pretty much done. So our item buffer here is going to fill up with gunpowder and redstone, but like I said, both of which we're farming. I put a void upgrade on the redstone drawer, and I also put a diamond upgrade on both the redstone and the gunpowder drawer. That way we will be able to store quite a ton of it, which is great. We want to store a lot of this just in case we have any issues with the mob farm later down the road. We don't want to immediately run out of power. That won't be a good thing. So right now we're clogging up on rocket fuel because these guys are still running off of hooch, but once their hooch drains, which will take a little while, but once it does, we will be good to go as far as that goes. Actually, if we wanted to even, it doesn't make a difference, so why don't we just take all these and just reset them? Just to see the system in action, because it's really quite amazing to watch. So we should... it decided to put all the rocket fuel into the first two. That's fine. Oh, there we go. Seems to be slowly spreading out to all of these. So now we're producing 160 RF per tick for each of these. So if you do the math, that's actually, we're making 960 RF per tick in total, I believe. Let me... yeah, 480 RF per tick per side. So this is 960 RF in total. This is completely renewable. We'll only barely be using rocket fuel once this gets, once the buffers for all of these get filled up, because really, quite frankly, we're not going to need that much power that often. Our nutrient distillation is still working its way through, and it seems as though our reservoir is holding up. I was worried we might need to add a second one, but it seems like everything is just fine, which makes sense because we haven't added any more water usage here. This is just using hooch now. So that's no big deal. Everything seems to be working, so I hope you guys enjoyed this rather long but highly productive episode. We have ridiculous power generation, and you bet your butt we're going to use it. So I'll see you guys in the next episode, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Take care.